Divine vision means acquaintance with and crystalline understanding of the universal energy. God and the devotee are one. In his very nature, the devotee is identical with God. With realization, the devotee comes to know the distinction between the essential and the contingent, the eternal and the evanescent, and this leads to his emancipation. The divine vision eliminates individuality. The manifest is clearly distinguished from the unmanifest. When the sense of identity is replaced by that of impersonal consciousness, the devotee knows that he is pure consciousness. Manifestation is pure consciousness manifesting itself in all the different names and forms. The spiritually enlightened take part in it sportively, knowing that it is only the play of universal consciousness. The name and form of the spiritually enlightened saint experiences the pangs and the sorrows of life, but not their sting. He is neither moved nor perturbed by the pleasures and pains, nor the profits and losses of the world. The temporal life must continue, with all its complex interactions, but the saint is ever aware that it is only the pure consciousness that is expressing itself in different names and forms, and it continues to do so in every new form. To him, the unbearable events of the world are just a tame and harmless affair. He remains unmoved in world-shaking events. God, as justice incarnate, has neither relations nor belongings of his own. Peace and happiness are, as it were, his only treasure. The formless divine consciousness cannot have anything as its own interest. The consciousness of one's own being, of the world, and of its supporting primal force are experienced all at once. Awareness of one's own being does not mean here the physical consciousness of oneself as an individual, but implies the mystery of existence. Prior to this, in the ignorance of one's own being, there is no experience of Brahman as being there. But the moment one is aware of being He is directly aware of the world and Brahman too. At the stage prior to this cosmic awareness, the self and its experiences are limited to the worldly life. This worldly life starts with birth and ends with death. To become aware of ourself, the world, and God all of the sudden is a great mystery indeed. It is an unexpected gain. It is an absorbing and mysterious event, extremely significant and great. But it brings with it the responsibility of self-preservation, sustenance, and self-development as well. And no one can avoid it. One who leads his life without ever wondering about who or what he is accepts the traditional genealogical history as his own and follows the customary religious and other activities according to tradition. He leads his life with the firm conviction that the world was there prior to his existence and that it is real. Because of this conviction, he behaves as he does, gathering possessions and treasures for himself, even knowing that at the time of death, he will never see them again, knowing that none of this will be remembered after death. Still, his greed and avarice operate unabated until death. When we concentrate our attention on the origin of thought, the thought process itself comes to an end. There is a hiatus, which is pleasant, and again the process starts. Turning from the external world and enjoying the objectless bliss, the mind feels that the world of objects is not for it. Prior to this existence, the unsatiating sense enjoyments constantly challenge the mind to satisfy them. But from this inward turned onwards, its interest in them begins to fade. Once the eternal bliss is enjoyed, the external happiness loses its charm. One who has tasted the inward bliss is naturally loving and full of the mystery and wonder of the bliss. Thoughts must be utilized for self-knowledge. One must be alert and watchful in ascertaining the nature of this I that is involved in the affairs of pleasure and pain arising out of sense experience. We must know the nature of the active principle, lest its activities be led astray. We should not waste our energies in useless pursuits, but should use those energies in the pursuit of the self and achieve identity with God. Spiritual life is so great, so deep, so immense, that energy pales in significance before it. Yet this energy tries to understand it again and again. Those who try to understand it with the help of the intellect are lost to it. Rare is the one who, having concentrated on the source atom of the cosmic energy, enjoys the bliss of spiritual contemplation. But there are scores of those who take themselves to be spiritually inspired and perfect beings. They expect the common herd to honor and respect their every word. The ignorant people rush towards them for spiritual assistance and do their bidding. In fact, the pseudo-saints are caught in a snare of greed. Hence, what the people get in return is not the blessings of satisfaction, but ashes. The self-styled man of God, speaking ad nauseam about spiritual matters, thinks himself to be perfect, but others are not so sure. Greatness is always humble, loving, silent, and satisfied. This is the test of experience of the tried spiritual leader. The blissful mystic clearly sees the difference between his characteristics before and after realization. All that is transient has an origin in time and is subject to change and destruction, while he is free from change and can never perish. The unchanging one views the ever-changing world as a game. All the characteristics of the saint naturally spring from his experience, as there are no desires left in him. Nothing in the world of sense can ever tempt him. He lives in the fearless majesty of self-realization. He is moved to pity by the unsuccessful struggle of those tied down to bodily identity and their striving for the satisfaction of their petty interests. Even the great events of the world are just surface lines to him. The number of these lines that appear and disappear are infinite. The saint is convinced that the greatest of the sense experiences is only a momentary affair. Impermanence is the very essence of these experiences. Hence, pain and sorrow, greed and temptation, fear and anxiety can never touch him. The ever-awaited first moment was the moment when I was convinced that I was not an individual at all. The idea of my individuality had set me burning so far. The scalding pain was beyond my capacity to endure. But there is not even a trace of it now. I am no more an individual. There is nothing to limit my being now. The ever-present anxiety and the gloom has vanished, and now I am all beatitude, pure knowledge, pure consciousness. I am ever free now. This beatific conscious form of mine now knows no bounds. It belongs to all, and everyone is mine, and all are but my own individuations, and these together go to make up my beatific being. There is nothing like good or bad, profit or loss, high or low, mine or not mine, for me. Nobody opposes me, and I oppose none, for there is none other than myself. Bliss reclines on the bed of bliss. The repose itself has turned into bliss. There is nothing that I ought or ought not do, but my activity goes on everywhere, every minute. My characteristics of immensity and majesty, my pure energy, and my all, having attained to the golden core, repose in bliss as the atom of atoms. My pure consciousness shines forth in majestic splendor. Why and how the consciousness became self-conscious is obvious now. The experience of the world is no more of the world as such, but is the blossoming forth of the self-same curious principle, God. And what is it? It is pure, primal knowledge, conscious form, the primordial I consciousness that is capable of assuming any form it desires. It is designated as God. The world as the divine expression is not for any profit or loss. It is the pure, simple, natural flow of beatific consciousness. There is no distinctions of God and devotee, nor Brahman and Maya. He that meditated on the bliss and peace is himself the ocean of peace and bliss. Glory to the eternal truth, Sat Guru, the Supreme Self. The Bhakta pours out his devotion, molds his behavior in every respect, in accordance with the will of God. In turn, he finds that God is pleased with him, and this, his conviction, takes him nearer to God, and his love and friendship will grow richer and richer. The process of surrendering to the will of God in every respect results in his blessings. One who is blessed by God is a blissful soul. Being at peace with himself, he looks at the objects of enjoyment with perfect indifference He is content with whatever he has and is glad to see others happy. If a person believes that he is blessed by God and is still unhappy, it is better if he gives up this delusion and strive for the coveted grace with sincerity and honesty. Divine favor is not judged by the objects of sense, but by the internal contentment. This verily is the blessing of God. Him have I seen now whom I so earnestly desired to see. I met myself. The meeting requires an extremely difficult and elaborate preparation. I pined to see the most beloved one. I was sure to die if I were not to do it. Even with the innermost sincerity of my whole being, I was not able to get at it, and the situation was unbearable. Yet, with love and determination, eagerness and courage, I started on my journey. I had to get through different stages and places in the undertaking. I saw it today. I was sure. But the very next moment, I felt perhaps it was not it. Whenever I saw it, I was intent on observing it keenly, but not knowing its nature with certitude, could not decide either way. I could not be sure that it was my beloved, the center of my being. Being an adept in the art of makeup, it dodged me with a quick change of form. It is so deft in the art of changing the form, quality, and knowledge that the intellect does not know where it stands, let alone the penetration through its nature. But what is this miracle? Wonder of wonders. The flash, curiously glistening, majestic splendor. But where is it? It disappeared in a flicker before I could apprehend it. No, nothing could be known about what happened to me or to the lightning. In the glow of the flashing miracle, the whole of the cosmic array is experienced directly. The contact is immensely interesting. This is the characteristic of the cosmic experience. But in the very attempt to arrest the glowing flash for a basic understanding, one loses it. It is extremely difficult to get at the root of the cosmic energy. That is perfectly adept in assuming an infinite variety of forms. The consciousness to be apprehended and the power of concentration are one and the same. Being polyamorous by nature, it cannot be pinned down to any definite form or name or place. The bliss is transformed into supreme beatitude and the self is absorbed in the Supreme Spirit. Knowledge to itself, contemplation into itself, the primal Maya, God, the Absolute State, are all a single whole of self-experience. The ever-cherished and desired being is realized here. The continuous process of getting to know the environment goes on from birth of the I consciousness. Though the I consciousness is automatic, hence effortless, one has to learn to do various things. One also must learn about one's own person and its care. Some things are mastered of necessity and of one's liking. Others which are not essential must also be learned. In the process of conscious learning over and above the world of things, we are told we must also learn of things beyond the world. But before trying to know the things beyond, we must know the controller and support of the universe, called God, so that other things may be known with His help. We are told that this is to be achieved by forming friendship with saintly persons and by regularly and devoutly carrying out their instructions. But then, we are told it is a matter of rare good fortune that one comes across such a saintly soul. And when one comes across such a person, by rare good fortune, the saintly soul tells us, "You yourself are God. Think of Him alone. Meditate on His being. Do not engage yourself in thinking of anybody else." For a while, I used to deal with various matters and perform activities such as knowing and learning, with the idea that I was a human being born of the I consciousness. Next, I started meditating on myself as God in order to know myself. Now I know that I am the knower of whatever I remember, perceive, or feel. Hence ignoring all that I remembered, perceived, or felt, I contemplate on the nature of the knower. I am sitting in a secluded place where none can see me, with my eyes half closed. Whatever I remember, perceive, feel, or experience comes into my being from within myself. My meditation is my torch, and what I see is its light. All that I see and remember is just the light of my meditation. Now, I do not feel the necessity to meditate anymore, for the nature of meditation is such that it is spontaneous. The heart of a mother is full of tenderness, but it is limited to her child only. But the heart of a saint is all-inclusive. He has no use for external marks of saintliness. He dresses in keeping with the time and climate. Being in touch with the atom, the first cause of the universe, he knows its natural quiet well. Blossoming forth is the very nature of the core of this atom. Hence, changes and differentiation are bound to be there. Knowing this well, the saint is neither elated by pleasing events, nor depressed by the opposite ones. He has gauged the depth of knowledge of common man. He knows its nature from beginning to end. He knows the how and the why of the mentality, also the worthlessness of its achievements and failures. The needs of the body prompt the creature to acquire means of sustenance, but the greed of these makes the creature pursue them to the point of uselessness. And all of this without the least idea of what awaits the life in future. What the creature deems essential and strives to acquire, the saint knows to be sheer trash. The saint is never a victim of passions. Life is a mixture of passions and emotions. He knows its activities and varieties of manifestation, as well as their consequences. The life principle is the principle of feeling, passions, emotions. Desires and passions engendered in this principle are just emotive experiences. They have nothing of substance in them. Yet, the poor creature thinks them to be a great significance in his life, embraces the basically worthless desires, indulges in sense enjoyments, and runs after them helplessly. The controlling force of all these events is the same. It never changes. It cannot be that there is one God in one age and another in another age. Just a single quality gives birth to the glow of the expanded universe. In the absence of that one quality, all is pure silence. When this one single quality is known and befriended, the heart mingles with the heart. There is that supreme sense of inalienable mutuality, of oneness, of quality in all, and all as belonging to the one. The supreme unity is recognized. Hence, it is called the Supreme Self. All time, all space, and all causes have become one for eternity. The one alone is all active. It has no gain, nor loss, nor death. It is unborn, eternal, and yet is born every moment and manifests itself in every epoch. All spiritual and intellectual knowledge comes to rest here.